Okay, I believe that I am now live. Yeah, just sort of checking audio levels and stuff. But welcome. This is a live stream for Comic Tropes. I'm Chris, and I do these from time to time. Mostly, I'm just doodling for fun. Sometimes I'm drawing like a commission or something, but mostly I'm just doodling for fun. But that's sort of background so that there's a video. The real goal is so that I can interact with my audience. So, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'll do my best to address them. I did plan ahead, and I got a few questions from some friends. I said, give me some questions that I can just sort of pull out as I'm doing this show so that I have topics to discuss. By the way, it's not showing up super well in this tiny little webcam that I have here, but I have a new shirt that I'm going to be wearing for Comic Tropes. This is, that sort of bowling / Hawaiian shirt style, but the strips here are just nothing but reprinted old comic pages. So I think that looks pretty cool. Hello, some people are coming in. So hello to Fanboys Rain, and hello to Lawrence. Hello to Perth Comics. So nice to have some company in here, folks. I really appreciate that. So I've just been sort of doodling today, and the thing that's on my mind is Godzilla, just because I'm a big fan of kaiju and big monsters and stuff, and I liked how this one was generally coming along. So I think I'm gonna ink it. And I've got an idea for where it's going with the inking. So primarily I'm focusing on inking today. And let's see if we've got any questions. Let's see. Hello to Wet Cloth and Bronson. Hello to Aiden and Chico. Hello to 24 Finn, Eli Harrington, Kawa Baladi. What is this? Layla, Edwin Baca. Yes, this is sort of a custom shirt. I got it on Etsy. The manufacturer was called, I think it's called Strange Beautiful Designs, I think. So anyway, I have seen the movie. I had a good time. Hello, Brendan. Hello, Big Boss. My fave Godzilla film, probably the original. Sincerely, it stands the test of time. Others that stand up there for me, I really liked Shin Godzilla. I like Godzilla Final Wars. I like Godzilla versus Destoroyah. I like SOS Tokyo. I like pretty much any of the films where he fights Mechagodzilla. Yeah. Let's see. So that answers at least a few folks' questions. Oh, you know what? I don't really have the chat window sized right. Let me just shift this over a little bit, and I think that'll look better on the video stream for everybody. Hello to Diego and Beliasa. Hello, Jake. Would I ever talk about Tank Girl comics? Probably, although maybe I'd be more likely to talk about just Jamie Hewlett, the writer-artist in general, and that would to a large degree cover Tank Girl. So I would like to just discuss that artist and his techniques sometime. Hello, Aiden Harris. Let's see. Yeah, I've seen Train to Busan, Bronson. Good movie. Very good movie. Hello, Scott Sampson. Hello, Eric Wade. What did I think of Zilla 1998? Didn't really care for it. Didn't work for me. Didn't really like pretty much any of it. I have read the old Godzilla comics, 24 Finn. In fact, I've got an episode where I review the entire run, and it ends with one of my more elaborate sort of skits with a kaiju battle. So I definitely recommend my Godzilla episode of Comic Tropes. Hello, Alibi Jones and Warren Terrell. The masterpiece Tank Girl film. Yeah, not a really good movie, actually, the Tank Girl movie. Although, overall, I think that the casting was pretty good. It just doesn't really... It's not a good movie. Let's see. Yeah, interesting question. I'm going to skip that one. Brendan Sellers asks if I would ever cover Black Sad, and absolutely I will. Definitely a comic that I like. I think I've talked before about how much I like crime comics. That's a genre that I really enjoy. So Black Sad falls into that category, and the artist is just amazing. I'm generally not into anthropomorphic animals, but when the art is as gorgeous as the stuff by Guardino, I forget exactly how to pronounce his name, from Black Sad. God, it's a beautiful looking book. Will I ever make another comic video on Godzilla? Maybe someday. There are other Godzilla comics. I like a lot of the stuff that James Stacco did with IDW. The IDW Sonic series. Not really aware of it, to be honest. So I have not read any of that. How long have you been doing art? As long as I can remember. I didn't really take it too seriously until maybe I was 25 or so, but I've always been drawing. Yeah, I did do an episode on the Sonic comic back in the day and how I didn't quite, like, I found it impenetrable. There was just too much continuity and stuff, and it just, like, was not, it was not built for a new reader. What do I think of David Bowie? He's one of my all-time favorite musicians. I love David Bowie. I made a painting of David Bowie. No, it's not in this room. This is our painting room, so I thought there was a chance it could be in here, but it's not. All right, so I'm going to have a ramen while I work. So if you've never seen this before, this part's fun. Actually, I'll do it under here. Ready? You pop a little marble in here, and keeps you from drinking too fast. Let's see, what other things? Dan Clowes? Yeah, I'd love to discuss Dan Clowes, definitely. Have I done any professional artwork? Yeah, I have. Not a lot, but yeah, a few things. But anyway, I've covered it before, so I don't want to bore anyone with my stuff. I have reviewed Hulk in the sense that I talked about Peter David's work sometime, but there's a lot of actually good Hulk runs, so I'll probably talk about Hulk more soon. Yeah, I think that there has been comics based on The Thing, Bronson. I haven't read them all, but I'm positive that there have been. Let's see, any chance of a Project Manhattan review? Is that a comic? Not sure. Favorite kaiju other than Godzilla? Well, I will say that the kaiju in Pacific Rim were dope. Those are some good designs, looked awesome. The first Pacific Rim especially, that looks great. But in terms of more famous ones, I definitely have an appreciation for Gamera, the big flying turtle, especially the more recent ones. I think it looks cool. I do like the Shin Godzilla movie, Andre. Very, very good movie. Very good. How do I get involved with my local comic scene? Oh, that's a good question. I want to meet other people that are obsessed with comics. I've got some advice for this. So give me a minute here, folks. Oh, I haven't read Project Manhattan by Jonathan Hickman. I'm sorry. Now I know what you're talking about. But I haven't read it yet. And I do like Hickman, but I haven't read that one. In terms of forming or getting involved with your local comic scene, I have some experience here. When I moved to DC, I didn't know anyone there. I moved there for a job years ago. I'm going to take this off because this room is really, really hot. Gets all the sunlight throughout the day, and then we don't have an air conditioner in this room. Anyway, so I moved to DC, and I was also very interested in sort of making new friends and meeting people that were into comics. And I would go to my local comic store and talk about, like, hey, has anybody talked about putting together a group and stuff? Most of the time at the local comic shop, they were like, no, haven't really heard of anything quite like that. And I was like, okay, it's something I'm giving some thought to. And just sort of good timing, some other people did actually very soon have an idea to meet at a local bar. And it was a great venue for it because it was a really large bar. It used to actually be a car dealership. And they filled it with, like, couches and chairs and tables that you could move around. It wasn't super loud or anything. It was only beer. It wasn't like, hard liquors. So it was, and they had a restaurant attached to it. So since we could move tables around, it was a great place. And these people were organizing a meeting, and I met them very early on. And that was called the DC Conspiracy. We eventually named ourselves because we were in DC, Washington, DC. And what we would do to attract members is we would put posts on Facebook. That was pretty much the only real social media tool that had any traction at that time, because this is going back like over 15 years now. And we would create like cards and stuff that we would drop off at all the local comic book stores and just spread word of mouth. And what we would do is we would set a meeting, and we would have a meeting at least once a month for years. And we would collaborate on comics together. We would self-publish all sorts of anthology type comics that we would all work on, and we would sell them at local conventions, and that also helped spread the word. So we created a website, Facebook, and just word of mouth at comic book stores, because obviously a comic book fan is going to go to comic book stores, so we'd advertise there. And it was a really healthy group. You know, like any given meeting would have at least 20 to 30 people, probably closer to 30. And it was great. And then we organized to have an annual, it wasn't quite a comic convention. It was more like just a big art show, because we'd invite any kind of like artist, including crafters and stuff, but we'd also organize live entertainment, bands, comedians, sideshow freaks were popular, things like that. And that's actually how I met my fiance. She was in a band that we hired, and she thought the group sounded cool, and we got along. So I created my own opportunity there. We would also go on field trips. We'd go to the National Comic Book Museum. We went to the Frank Frazetta Art Gallery. We went on all sorts of field trips to conventions sometimes. We'd get table space together. It was great. So that was a long thing, but you asked, like, what do you do to get involved with your local comic scene? I would say if you don't know of one, start your own. And it only has to be people that like it, but if you can organize somewhere that's relatively quiet, that can take a lot of people, then I would just say plan small projects that you can do yourself, not like things that require people to pay money, like, hey, I've had this dream for years of publishing my own comic book. Keep it more modest, just like, a couple pages each, or one page each. That group, by the way, DC Conspiracy, is still around. I now live in the Seattle area across the country, but DC Conspiracy puts out a regular published newspaper-sized comic book full of comic strips, I should say, and they give it away free throughout the DC area. So that's called The Magic Bullet, and just something that you should consider yourself if that's what you want to get involved in. All right, so I answered that question. It took a long time. Let me jump back in and see what other people are here. Hello to J. Andrew World and Clay. Hello to Art by Galen, Pengu. Hello, I don't know, a lot of people. Yeah, I think a Scud animated series would be cool. Hello, Zion. Hello, GG1954. Cool year, because this has been a long time. So let's just start inking. So first, I'm going to start laying in some slightly thicker lines to indicate his exterior rough, scaly body, and then we'll move on to maybe some finer line work for everything else. And every once in a while when I do this, I may get a little quiet, but eventually I'll pop my head back up and we can keep talking. Definitely not trying to ignore anybody. Let's see. Did I get early access to see Godzilla? I did. Well, technically, a friend of mine did, and he invited me. So, yeah, we saw Godzilla about a week early. We had a good time. I wouldn't say it's great. Don't get me wrong. But it's pretty good. It's pretty entertaining. It's got a lot of action. That's always kind of fun in a Godzilla movie. Or borderline necessary, right? So I'm trying to basically draw the current Godzilla, which I've drawn other versions of Godzilla, but I've never drawn this one. My biggest observation about his sort of face was that it was vaguely reminiscent of like a snapping turtle. Now, that was what I got out of it. We'll see. So that's sort of the version that I'm trying to do here. I don't know how well I'll do it, but that's my goal. If there was a Godzilla versus Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie or comic, do you think it would be good? Yeah, sure. That seems like something that could cross over. I think that like they'd have to have the team, the Power Rangers team up with Godzilla, because Godzilla isn't explicitly like enough of a villain that anyone would be happy if the Power Rangers beat him up, and I don't think they could. So you'd have to have him sort of more on the balancing nature sort of idea. Friend to humanity when it comes to other monsters. What pen is that? This is a Pigma fine brush. It's a brush pen by Sakura. Have you seen the movie Us? I did. It was decent. It was kind of like a, what do you call it? It felt like an episode of Twilight Zone. Sort of stretched out to movie length, in my opinion. But that's okay. Because it doesn't necessarily hold up 100% if you try to apply a lot of logic to it. But it was an interesting premise that had something to say and had at least some effective moments of tension throughout it. Who was asking about the local comic scene? I forget the name, sorry. I've seen My Hero Academia manga in some of my videos. What do you think about its take on American superheroes? They don't talk about a lot of American superheroes, although it seems to be implied that All Might is American and he's like the best. It's fine. I like My Hero Academia quite a bit. Have I ever met any comic book colorists? Absolutely. I know tons of colorists. Hello, C. Kim. Sorry, I'm really thirsty. It's warm. Comic book colorist. I guess the one that I know best at this point would be somebody that does a lot of other types of artwork, in mostly like creating his own prints, and that would be Mark Englert. But one of the more prolific things he colored relatively recently was Heavy Metal Magazine got the rights to the last sequential Jack Kirby pages that had never been published, which was created for Lords of Light, which is better known maybe as the comic book behind the movie Argo. And so they hired Mark to color those pages. So that was like only like, I don't know, 2017 or maybe 2018. I think it was 2017. We got some Jack Kirby artwork that most of the world had never seen before, and Mark got to color it. Very surreal, trippy, high contrast colors. But yeah. If you're trying to learn how to do like digital coloring, you have to learn a lot of things to be really good. I think that like actual painting classes can help because it teaches you color theory and texture. And then, yes, sushi it is. It's called Ramune. There's a new magazine out. I want to say it's something like, it might be called like FX Artist. And I could be wrong though on that title. I saw it at what do you call it? I saw it at Barnes and Noble just the other day in its art section. It's like the first issue, and it's all about like how to color comic books. It's got like a sort of a digital, like black and white Batman on the cover. I didn't look super closely. It was either Jim Lee or maybe like Scott Snyder or somebody like that. But if that's something you want to get into, that might have some helpful tools. And there's tons of YouTube videos that will teach you coloring techniques. Definitely something that if you want to do well, it's going to take some time. Oh, okay. So Jay says that just in general, what do I think of My Hero Academia as sort of like a take on American comics? In that case, I think that in a lot of ways it's pretty accurate. It really reminds me of the 80s version of New Mutants. Just a school of kids learning how to use their powers. I've got the Godzilla theme playing in my mind while I do this. I'm serious. Dun, 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 dun. So I do have some pre-written questions, but there's a lot being asked. So, Imagine FX. Thank you, Joshua David Smith. I think Imagine FX is the name of the magazine. You can find comic inks online easy if you want to practice coloring them. This is by Art by Galen, but always credit the artists you use their work. Yeah, if you're going to publish it, that's true. But if you just want to practice, you're in good shape. I have not seen Good Omens. Sorry, Lawrence. I've never read it. So I like David Tennant, and sometimes I even like Michael Sheen. You know, he can be a very good actor, and he can be a very over-the-top actor. I'm sure anyone who's seen plenty of his stuff knows exactly what I'm talking about. But yeah, but I don't know the book, so I mean I've been aware of it, but just I haven't read it, so I couldn't really comment on it. I'm just sort of hopping all around, sort of trying to find the areas that interest me in this drawing, and moving on from there. What else? Michael Sheen in Twilight. Didn't see that. Sorry. Mr. Vic, I remember collecting Rom and Godzilla from Marvel back in the day. Yeah, definitely. Fun stuff. Is Godzilla skating? No, he's not skating. I was going to put some, like, big rubble and stuff under him here, and then just sort of put some clouds of either dust or a storm behind him after that, but I'm not really 100% sure where I'm going yet. Sort of figure that out as I go along. It's not all planned out. I just had a Godzilla sketch I sort of liked and was like, yep, let's live stream. Haven't done that in a little while. What comics you reading lately, asks Joker. Lately, not a lot, but My Hero Academia is one. Another is Immortal Hulk. What else? I'll pick up anything by like Ed Brubaker. I'll pick up anything by Sean Gordon Murphy. I'll pick up anything by Rick Remender. I'll probably start reading X-Men when Hickman starts on that. We'll see. Can we expect a Can we expect a comic tropes on superhero deconstruction of the 80s like martial law and other lesser-known titles? Absolutely. I mean, I've definitely talked about deconstruction and stuff, especially in the 80s. I did Brat Pack. I would say that is lesser known, and but martial law is probably even a little bit lesser known. But yeah, I'd like to talk about Kevin O'Neill and martial law. I think it holds an important place in what it did in terms of both deconstruction and satire. So yeah, you can definitely expect that someday. Have I seen Godzilla vs. Bambi? Back in the day I did. Back when it was just sort of a movie that would like get passed around. I don't know where I first saw it now that I'm thinking of it. Where would I have first seen that? It's probably on YouTube these days, I assume. I don't know. Huh. Yeah, I know I've seen it, and I know I saw it a long time ago, but I don't remember where I would have seen it first. Hello, Watchful and Harmonious subscriber. Gonna play Godzilla from Blue Oyster Cult. Very cool, very cool. I sincerely endorse that. Am I ever gonna do a vid on pre-Disney Big Hero 6? I don't know. Maybe. It crossed my mind once or twice, but I also was like, well, is Big Hero 6 something people are passionate about or care? Is there anything that I have to say about the old comics? You know what it is a little similar that I think I might do sometime is talk about the original Men in Black comics. So that could be a thing at some point. I don't think as many people know that Men in Black started as a comic book. So we'll see. Sushi the Sloth. I like that name. I remember hearing about Apocalypse Poo and almost thought it sounded like this mystical thing, but it was pretty underwhelming when I saw it on the internet. I don't know that one. Sorry. That doesn't ring a bell. Who's my favorite Golden Age hero? Golden Age. Probably Superman, actually. Golden Age Superman's pretty... No, you know what? Golden Age Batman's a little better. And then I like Silver Age Superman when it gets really weird. This Godzilla could be improved with a utility belt and about 50 pages and feet hidden. Yeah, I'll just hide the feet like this. There. Now it's going to start getting very Liefeld-esque, all right? I'm just going to start giving him some big shoulder pads here. Going to give him like a vacuum cleaner that I'm going to call a gun. Just kidding around. Are there any good Transformers comics that you know of? You know, I haven't read pretty much any modern Transformers. I haven't read any real modern Transformers, so I don't really have great advice there. I was into Transformers when I was very young, and so the only version I really was reading was the Marvel Comics version, and I'll tell you something, it does not hold up very well. I've made at least one video about those. I've heard that there's some good ones, especially by IDW, but I haven't confirmed that myself by reading them. So, unfortunately, I don't have a strong recommendation there. It is something I am a little curious about and probably would enjoy catching up on at some point. The one I've kept up with more is I was more into Transformers as a kid, but I was also into G.I. Joe, and the G.I. Joe comic book I thought was quite good by Marvel. Towards the very end, the toys that they had to push weren't as strong, so like and the artist was not my favorite on the title, but I always thought that writer Larry Hama wrote a really good comic. I always thought that the G.I. Joe comic was good, and he came back to continue his original continuity with IDW. So the G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, sort of like, continues. And I've been reading that, and I like it. I like it quite a bit. I think that holds up quite well. There's maybe like a very soft, unspoken rebootness to it all, because like the characters aren't really like old, even though they should be. And they don't really refer anymore to like the Vietnam era, which they did in the original 80s. Like Vietnam wasn't that long ago, so like plenty of the soldiers had been like, young men that got their initial experience there and then were sort of hired into G.I. Joe. They don't really refer to that anymore. And I think that makes sense. You just, something that you just don't think too much about. Anyway, sort of related. Give Godzilla a gun that bends. No problem. Uh, I feel for Liefeld with all the criticism he gets. I do too sometimes. But man, it's really hard for me to see 20 plus years go by without taking some freaking anatomy lessons. You know, it's like he doesn't have to. You sort like... Not everybody feels the need to self-improve, especially if you're already successful and you stay successful. Like, he is successful, so does he need to improve? Like, you know, it might not appeal to me. It might not appeal to lots of critics. At the same time, I'm like, well, he does something that engages people. So if they like it, like, in a way, who am I to shit on it? I'll make jokes about some of this stuff, but I'm not exactly, like, calling it, like, you should not read that. Like, that's not what I'm really going to say about hardly any comic. I'm never going to, like, you know, for the most part, I'm like, if somebody's enjoying it and I don't, I might poke some fun at, like, what I consider its flaws, but I'm not going to, like, I don't want to bash it so hard that, like, a fan feels bad for liking something, because if they like it, then they like it. That doesn't bother me. Am I planning on doing a video about Lee Fox, the Phantom? Probably. What fascinates me about the Phantom is how popular it is around the world. Like, of all things, like, it sort of stuns me that, like, it's so popular. So I think that would be the angle I'd take about how popular the Phantom is internationally. Make Godzilla and his son Transformers. Oh, okay, I'll do that. Bruce Campbell was almost to the movie Phantom. I remember reading about that. Probably would have been a little more fun. Billy Zane can be a little bit of fun, but Bruce Campbell is always a blast. And as a big Bruce Campbell fan, that means I might, like, if he had been the Phantom, I probably would have owned it. Instead, I think I've only seen it twice ever, and it's been a long time since I've seen it. I might not have even seen it twice. I may have only just sort of seen clips after that first time. Just doing a few delicate lines, and I'll look up questions in a sec. You have some Phantom comics from India. I had a listener share a bunch of Phantom comics from Australia once, so that looks kind of cool. Who remembers Johnny Sacco and his giant robot TV show? No, I don't know that one. Have I ever read any of Doug Mensch's big book series? I don't know exactly what you mean by big book. Maybe there was a series he did that was titled Big Book. I've read plenty of Doug Mensch stuff. Both Moon Knight and Batman, I believe he's written a bunch of. All right, see you, Bronson. Thanks for dropping in. Alec Baldwin's The Shadow. I kind of like Alec Baldwin's The Shadow. Then again, I haven't really rewatched that one either, but I remember sort of finding that one endearing in its own way. I'm sure someone will tell me if I got this wrong, but I'm giving Godzilla essentially 5 fingers, so I hope that's right. It might not be. He may only have 4. Or it may depend version to version. I'm just trying to have fun, though, so I didn't think I was going to look that up to be sure. Let's see. What else is being asked? Bill Sienkiewicz's Shadow. Yeah, I love Bill Sienkiewicz, man. He's awesome. Big Book of Unexplained and Big Book of Conspiracies. Have not read those. I don't think. That's by Doug Mensch, huh? Sounds cool, but afraid I have not read those. This time when I go back to, I'm going back to Japan in late November, early December, and plan to see some Godzilla stuff. There's a Godzilla statue I want to see, and so on. Are there any Batman comics you would recommend to read? Absolutely. I mean, personally, I think starting with Batman Year One by Frank Miller and David Mazzucchelli is a great place to start. You should probably read some of the classics like Killing Joke, Arkham Asylum, Dark Knight Returns. And then jump to some more modern stuff, like maybe as recent as like Rebirth. I like Tom King's run. A lot of people like New 52 stuff by Scott Snyder. Haven't read a lot of that. Grant Morrison did a pretty extended run on Batman that was very well received for the most part, I think. So. Clay recommends Long Halloween. I would agree that that's a very good story. Sorry, J. Andrew World, we have not all seen your interview, but I did see on Twitter that you said that somebody interviewed you, so congrats. Yeah, Hush I didn't really care for the story, but it is some of Jim Lee's best artwork, I will say that, so that's possibly worth reading just for the art. And White Knight by Sean Gordon Murphy, I think is fantastic. Like, for me, that's some of the best Batman artwork out there. Neil Adams said the more work you do in the pencils, the easier and more fun it is doing the inking. He might be right. There's many times where I do spend a lot more time on my pencils, but when I do the live streams, I just want to be able to think so that I can talk with people, and I've found that when I work completely from scratch, I find it a lot harder to concentrate. So that's why I often have a little bit of a sketch, but like figure out most of it while inking. It's not really the method I use all the time, but it works for these shows. Anyone seen any good movies aside from Godzilla? I just saw Rocket Man, and I really liked it. I will say that. I really thought Rocket Man was quite well done. There's a bunch of movies out that I'd love to see. Haven't had time to see John Wick yet. Would like to see that. Hopefully it's pretty entertaining. What else? There's a lot that's out there that's good. Thanks to Pressamy Street. That's a good name. Booksmart was really good. A couple people have said Booksmart is really good. I haven't seen a really funny movie in a while, so I do want to see that. What else? Nausicaa of the Wind Valley for the first time. That's cool. John Wick 3 is adequate. Oh, okay. I know this is probably asked earlier, what pen is that? Yep, it's okay. It gets asked a lot. This is just a brush pen. It's what I use when I'm just trying to work kind of quickly but have fun. It's not... I work slower if I use a brush, and I'll kind of want to, like, just sort of bang something out while talking to everybody, so that's sort of the goal. I have a plan for where this is ultimately going, and I'm going to color this tonight, so just need to get a few more details in place before I quite get that far. Trying to use my whole arm on the big lines. Actually, you know what? Before I do that, I gotta look up Godzilla to see how far down his spikes go. I'm looking up some reference right now on my phone. Whoa! Super chat. Thanks, Magic K. Will you ever make an episode about Power Pack? I actually do have an idea for a Power Pack episode. Will I do it? Probably. I've got a funny idea for a Power Pack episode, so it's definitely something I could do at some point. I'm not sure when I will do it, but I do have an idea. I'm going to turn on a light because I realize it's getting dark in here. One moment. Don't worry, dear viewer. I'm not leaving you. All right. So there we go. Godzilla is my spirit animal. You'd like to see the loners covered. The loners or the losers, just to be clear. Because I know that Loners was, a teen Marvel book, but I just didn't know if you meant the more famous DC book, The Losers. Because it could be a typo. See ya, Art by Galen. Appreciate you stopping by. The Loners. Okay. Maybe someday. Not sure. It wasn't necessarily anything that made a big impact on me. I thought the idea was cool, but I don't know. Didn't really impress me per se. It was just sort of, yeah, it was there. I didn't finish looking up how far down Godzilla's tail spikes go. Let me look. Did I ever read the Sleaze Brothers? No, I don't believe I have. Whoa! Another super chat. Let's see. Package held at border, good sir, but much like clerks, I assure you it's on the way. Okay. Thank you, first of all, for that super chat. Not necessary, but very generous of you. C. Kim there just offered me a bunch of extra Copic markers that he had. Were they Copa or were they Prismacolor? I forget. Either way, I was like, yeah, I love these things. So if you're serious, like I would never ask, but if you're willing to donate them, I would absolutely love to use them. So that's what he's talking about there. Isn't that kind? I don't get a ton of donations, but I'm very, very grateful when I do. So thank you. Very kind of you. Just looking at Godzilla's tail here. Oh, the spikes really do go all the way down. Okay. Okay, that's okay. I'm just going to have them sort of like go along the underside, basically. Like that, yeah. And now I'll do this. Trying to use my arm to pull the entire thing as compared to just using my wrist. And when it gets under here, I can start going a little more jagged. Cool. That'll work. Whoa, another. And Galen has the Discord cookies. Galen has the Discord cookies. Who are your favorite inkers? Well, that's an interesting question. I don't know if I've got a favorite inker. That's an interesting question. I mean, I can think of several. I think of guys like I don't know, Scott Williams. I think Scott Hanna is another. I think of people have seen who's a guy that I like. I almost had a name there. It's left my mind. That's awful. They are Copics. And I've thought many times about doing some episodes about inking. I feel bad right now. I'm not off the top of my head able to think of some of my favorite inkers. So that's too bad. I'm just a little tired, and it's just not coming to me, unfortunately. If anybody out there has a favorite that, now is definitely the time to speak up and give them some credit. Wow, there was a couple names that I'm Kevin Nolan. Well, yeah, also a great just artist. But you're right. Like when Kevin Nolan inks something, it looks better. There's no question. Big fan of his work. Yeah, that's a great one. That's a great one. Klaus Janson, I was thinking of as one that did some good work with Frank Miller specifically. Yeah, Scott Williams, sure. One of the most famous because, he works with Jim Lee so much. And he does make Jim Lee's work look very nice. And obviously Jim likes it because he keeps working with him. So yeah, that's a good call. It's an interesting call, as to who makes a good inker, because a lot of people will have different opinions on that, and especially the artists that they work with. Some artists prefer working with different people as their inkers. Yeah. Bill Sienkiewicz, yeah. It's McGee says, Godzilla. It is Godzilla, isn't it? Oh no, there goes Tokyo. Oh, Godzilla. Yeah. The guy that did the music for this most recent Godzilla movie, the composer, a guy named Bear McCreary, and if you've listened to TV or music soundtracks, you've probably heard his name before. He's worked on a lot of famous stuff. Before I ever did a YouTube show, I had a weekly podcast where I talked about sort of sci-fi and genre television shows, and I would interview celebrities. I'd interview guys like George R. Martin or Stan Lee or, actors on all sorts of shows, Battlestar Galactica and Lost and stuff. But one of the most pleasant interviews, one of the most interesting I ever had was with Bear McCreary, talking about his process. And in fact, we did more than one now that I think of it. We did at least, we must have done just two, but it was very enlightening, and he was a really pleasant, friendly guy, and I've been a fan. Just I already liked his work. That's why I asked to interview him. But his kind demeanor and helpful way of explaining things really meant a lot to me. So he earned a fan for life with me. That was a fun time. That was a lot of work to every week be organizing interviews. So it got very tiring because it's not like I was making any money at all on that, and that's okay. It's just that when you're doing that just out of pure fun, it stops being as much fun when there's so much work and you're not really getting any real reward or anything. Let's see if there's any questions. Oh, sorry. What's my opinion on Heroes in Crisis, asks Magic K. Great question. Obviously one of the biggest comics out there right now, but you know what? I haven't read it yet. I've said this a couple times before that I don't always keep up to date. I don't go to the comic book store weekly at all. I wish I did. Don't really have the income to just sort of buy comics when I feel like it. Mostly I just get comics to review for the show based on like what I know or what I've heard or what's in the news. So I haven't read Heroes in Crisis yet. I've definitely heard differing opinions. I want to read it because it's been in the news and stuff like that. I will make a point of reading it as soon as I can, and it could very well become a episode. Unfortunately, right now, don't really have a strong opinion on that one. So I'm sorry that I don't have a better answer, especially since you were kind enough to invest a super chat to get that in front of my eyes. But I just don't have an opinion yet. If anybody else has an opinion on Heroes in Crisis, I'm open to hearing those. It probably will not influence my take on it. I should do a review of Heroes in Crisis. Do you ever digitally color your art? I have. But in general, like I can definitely flat something digitally. That's no problem. I can definitely do that much. Almost anybody with patience can. In terms of blending and stuff, I feel I can do okay. But in terms of choosing the correct color palette, I don't think it's one of my strengths. I definitely believe in trying to do every job in comics, even if you're not good at it. Like, trying it several times so that you understand what goes into every aspect. So can I do, like, I could write, illustrate, color, letter, and publish a book. I could. I know how to do every step. I have done every step at some point. I've handled it all. From self-publishing to talking to, publishers or printers, etc. But that said, that doesn't make me good at everything. I feel that I'm capable, but I don't think that I'm great at coloring. And what I will normally do is ask for somebody to help with that. Marco, thank you so much for the super chat. Let's see what this question is. First time stream, well, thank you for joining. Recent subscriber, and I enjoy your content. This is just an appreciation donation. What do you like eating when you're in Japan? Well, I'll tell you what I found last time. First of all, I like noodles, and there's some ramen and soba noodles that are incredible in Japan. But last time, I made a point of finding a restaurant that actually serves Kobe beef. And some places will say that they serve Kobe beef. Don't believe that all the time. There's only, I believe, 2 restaurants in America that serve it. One in a really high-end one in LA and a really high-end one in Las Vegas. I'm pretty sure that those are the only 2 in America that carry actual Kobe Wagyu beef. Not everybody in Japan can carry it because Kobe is just, it's a region. And the cows there have been bred over a long time to be marbled a certain way. There's a high fat marbling content to it. And I know not everybody out there is necessarily a meat eater. Sorry, I am. Sorry, not sorry. It's what I do. I try to be respectful of my vegetarian friends, but I like beef. And I went to a restaurant, and the beef, they gave me a couple thin slices uncooked. And I'm like, really? Am I going to eat something completely raw? I taste it. So delicious, so much flavor, so tender. It really melted in my mouth almost like butter. But it was beef. Amazing. Yeah, some people are explaining exactly what it. Sure, I've tried beef teriyaki. It can be very, very lovely. just I'm not kidding. I'm a bit of a steak snob. I like steak. I'll eat at like Outback or something like that. It's can be tasty because it's cooked in like butter and it's a decent cut of meat. But I like good steak, and I can tell the difference because I get it a decent amount. Wagyu is Sansanity mentioned. Wagyu is really just the Japanese name for cow, so it doesn't necessarily mean anything. So you have to really be careful. You have to really be careful when you're looking for Kobe beef. It really is the best. It really is the best, probably. I haven't tried everything from every region of the world, but obviously Kobe beef has a reputation. I went out and got some. Not too much either, because it was very expensive. The amount I got was very small. And what was funny too was when I ordered it, because of the price, it said there was like a 5-course meal, right, or something like that, like five piece or something like that. Maybe it was translated, and so like that's why I had a little. I'm trying to remember, but my idea was they were going to give me 5 types of things. Not necessarily that I thought I was going to get 5 steak things, but I thought that I was going to get like 5 courses, because they started by giving me some really nice roast beef. But they were just giving me that. That was just an appetizer, that this was a nice enough restaurant that they just gave you some roast beef. And so then my Wagyu comes. And I did take my time eating it. I was like, oh, so good, so good. And I finished the 5 pieces. I'm like, what is next? And Chrissy, my fiance, was like, there's no next. That was your meal. Like, did you not realize that? That was your entire meal. I was like, oh, I thought I was getting more. Okay, it's a little more expensive than I even realized. But it was good. It was good. So I'm going back, and I'm good. Let's see. Envy your Japanese vacation. When you go, will you be vlogging? Maybe. I don't know what my topics would be, but I'll probably make at least some quick videos there. I do think that I will. I'll potentially make an episode over there, and I was giving some very serious thought to it being about Akira. I bought the 35th anniversary box set of the comics, and I was just thinking it would be kind of fun to review it while I'm over there. I might use the YouTube creator studio that they have there. I'm eligible to use that. They've got like a studio in the heart of Tokyo, and that's where I'll be, and I'm eligible to book it. They've got like just several rooms where you can record. So I was giving some thought to that, but I don't know yet for sure if there's like a window behind me with like a view of Tokyo, or if it's just a room. If it's just a room, that's not too interesting, and I don't really need to use YouTube for that. So I need to figure it out. That's another reason why I'm doing Akira this year. Is Akira was set in the futuristic 2019. So I'm going to end the year with a review of Akira. Anyway, vlog some anime museum store stuff would be great. Well, go to Comic Tropes, and I forget what the... it's in a different playlist than Comic Tropes. It's something like Chris Reviews or something like that. And I have like about 3 or 4 videos of the area. Just small ones. One is talking about an art store where you can get a lot of comic book art materials. And my review of One Piece, I go around Japan to a couple places that carry One Piece related like merchandise or stuff like that. So kind of takes you around a little bit of Japan. And if you actually watch, now that I'm thinking of it, my video that's an introduction to what Comic Tropes is, I go to a gachapon store in that video. Yeah. So there's a few things that I did record when I was in Japan last, which was like about a year ago. It is really warm in this room. It's making me feel a little like woozy. But I'll try to do a little bit more here before I pack it in, because I am having a good time, and it's really interesting. You guys have given me a lot more questions than I expected, and I know I sort of take breaks from drawing to answer them, but that's to me what sort of this live stream's about, is just connecting with all of you and talking about, you know, comic book related type stuff. That's what I like doing. You've been to Japan and not heard of Johnny Sacco and Giant Robot? I'll Google it later, man. Sorry. Yeah. I get so excited when a convention here in Toronto has gachapons. I only know them from your giveaways. That's awesome, Jen. Yeah, it was a lot of fun to get them all. They're so much better than like the sort of crummy capsule machines that we have here in America, that I grew up very excited about. But I think that the quality of the things that you can get in the capsule machines here is pretty crummy. Whereas like in Japan, like the prizes inside the capsules there are quite good toys. They're really quite good. Okay, I'll dig it, huh? Okay. Any manga tropes for the future? Like I said, I'll be doing the Akira in November. I do have some others that I'd like to discuss, but I don't know exactly when I'm doing them yet. I would like to do My Hero Academia. I would like to do what do you call it? I've started reading JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, so I need to read a lot more of that before I'm caught up, but that's something I'll talk about at some point as well. Have I ever considered doing a video? By the way, this is a super chat by Sam Nichols, so thank you for that. Have I ever considered doing a video on the Legion of Superheroes? There's a lot there to analyze. I have, and you know, it's intimidating thinking of like, you know, what era to analyze. I should, and I'm leaning towards talking about the stuff that was coming out in like the 80s and 90s, because it got very popular, I would argue, at that point in time. So yeah, I heard Japan has the most vending machines per capita and no soda in them. There are soda vending machines, first of all, just to be clear, but they have a lot of vending machines, and a lot of them will have stuff like water and coffee, a lot of coffees and teas, and just sort of like, you know, unique drinks like that. There will be a lot of you can get like hot and cold, but there's soda machines everywhere, and then they have capsule machines. They've got a lot of vending machines, sandwiches. Godzilla isn't exactly supposed to be in the suck it pose, J. Andrew World, so much as I was thinking he's putting like his arms down and like letting out a roar, like ah. Do they still play pachinko in Japan? Boy, do they. Especially in Shibuya, there are a lot of pachinko parlors, and they are loud. Pachinko parlors are loud. That's one of my small videos, I believe, is just like walking real quick through a pachinko parlor, just so you can like sort of hear how loud it is and like see all the lights and stuff. Pachinko is like, I don't quite get it very well as a game. It's like you drop balls from like metal balls from the top, and I guess like, you know, when they land in certain gutters at the bottom, you get points, but I don't think you do much to control it. Oh wow, another super chat from Sansanity. No question or comment, just Sansanity just doing something out of the kindness of Sansanity's Sansanity heart. Thank you. Very cool. It's like vertical pinball machines. You know, I haven't actually played pachinko, so I guess I didn't realize. Do they have flippers on the side? If they do, I guess I just didn't pick up on that. It would be epic to have a coffee vending machine. What they do is it's still in cans, though. It's not like it drops a cup and like, you know, fills it up like, you know, in a hospital or something. Like they have cans And some places it will be kept warm. Some things are kept cold. It's really interesting. It's more like a slot machine than pinball. Okay, that's sort of what I thought. I thought you like basically buy just a ton of metal balls and you just drop them in and they just sort of hit the little like bumpers and stuff on the way down. And depending on where they land in like the little cups or whatever that you don't really see, that's how you get your points. Am I going to draw Godzilla releasing his radioactive breath? Not quite. Not exactly. I'm going to do something regarding him and his radioactivity, but not radioactive breath. Let me see if I have what I'm looking for. Here, I'll give everybody a hint. What I'm thinking of, anyway. These colors. So we'll say An Heart Dario activity tattoo on his chest or arm. You don't quite get it. Have him singing Katy Perry's World. You got it. Ready? I got the eye of the tiger inside me. It's funny to me. Oh, speaking of like funny to me, some of you may have seen this and some of you may not have. My channel got deactivated again yesterday when my new episode went up. That does not mean that you couldn't see the episode. That stayed. It meant that I was completely locked out of my account. Do they tell me why? No, they never tell you why. They don't. I can strongly suspect why. I suspect someone reported me because I initially put in a gag where I take a big dump in my cat's litter box to supposedly spite him. And then I say, oh, speaking of spite, let's talk about the company that tried to spite Marvel. That was my joke. Maybe not funny to everybody. A lot of people thought it was just gross. I get it. I do. I get it. Like, there was no sort of build up to it, so it just sort of like happens right away in the first few seconds. You're like, whoa, oh, Chris went there. That's my sense of humor. I've actually edited it out. But whatever. So that's probably what happened. It didn't like, I don't think it auto catches anything like that. I think somebody has to report it. And Google just responds by going like, okay, you're locked out of your account. Like somebody said you violated the terms of the service. We're going to believe them. It's like, dudes, I've been doing a more than weekly show for over 3 years. Am I going to throw it all away by just like all of a sudden like violating your terms? No, come on. Give me an ounce of trust here. Give me an ounce of trust. I appealed it, and within like a very short amount of time, I had full access recovered. But I strongly suspect that there are trolls out there that are like reporting my channel at this point. And it's frustrating because it happened once before, not too long ago, on my Big Dicks, Blue Beetle versus Big Dicks episode. So anyway, Milo reported me. It was a Snickers bar, Chrissy points out. Thank you. This is, again, a Sakura pen. It's called a Pigma. It's a brush pen. That's all it is. I'm glad a lot of you liked it, and that's awesome. Like, it was funny to me. If there's a certain amount of people that I don't care necessarily about offending someone. If you don't get my joke, you don't get my joke. But it's different if I'm starting with a joke that completely like distracts and turns off people as compared to if I put it in the middle or the end of my video. If I made a joke that people are just like, whoa, I didn't see that coming, and then they're not like even thinking about the review, then I'm sort of failing with my joke. It's like, it's about like timing and context. So is it a funny gag in and of itself? To me, it is. But I get how, because I'm not setting it up going like, speaking of spite, I'll tell you, I know something spiteful. Let me go to do something spiteful. If I did that in the middle of the video, I think it would have a different reaction. Same joke, just a little paced differently. I think it would have had a different reaction. So if you go to the video now, I've actually trimmed it out. Because I want new people to be able to watch my video. And if new people are coming in and that's the first thing they see and they think that it's gross because they've never seen my sense of humor before, that's not a good way to introduce myself necessarily, because that's not all I do. Like, if it would be different if I was a comedian and like most of my material was, poop jokes. That would be different. But that's not like all that I do. It's just something that I found funny. So I've decided that it wasn't a great idea how I presented that as a gag. I'm really glad that so many people found it funny. Thank you. I'm glad. I mean, I think it was funny, but a lot of people didn't. Enough that I was like, well, I don't care that they don't like it, but I do care that they're so distracted that they're really not necessarily even continuing to watch the video, the analysis, and stuff like that. What's my favorite letter to drop a deuce in? Dust Fest. I forget what we call. Chrissy, do you even know what we get? I know we get a specific brand. I can't think of what it's even called. It's the one that right now has Bub the cat on it. Did you dump the whole litter box or just scoop it out? I just scooped it right out. I dropped it for the joke. I scooped it out, threw it away instantly. Hearing you talk about at length right now is almost as funny as the joke itself. I know, I'm talking for like 5 minutes about a poop joke. That is kind of funny. But yeah, so like, I feel like it didn't engage people the way that I meant for it to engage them. So yeah, it was a tough call because I don't like feel remorseful about making the joke. But I sort of thought about it and I was like, well, this isn't necessarily landing the way I thought that it would. Not that I expect every joke to appeal to every person. That would be ridiculous. I just thought that more people would instantly like get the joke, and they didn't. So whatever. I might have talked about that a little too much, right? The fact that someone... Okay, I'm going to show this. Let's see. The fact that someone had an issue with a skit of a man taking a shit in his cat's litter box, it's like, go watch any Monty Python skit or angry video game nerd video. Exactly. It's not like it's a new joke. I just was trying to present it in a different context, and I don't think I built up to it properly. I think I could have framed it in such a way that people did like it. No, it was definitely fake, Layla E. It was definitely fake. It was just dropping a chocolate bar in a clean litter box. That's all it was. Anyway, the litter box poop is gone, but not forgotten. It won't ever be forgotten because of all the comments. It was enough comments that I was like, not more trouble than it's worth. But anyway, it didn't frustrate me at all that people didn't all get the joke. That's fine. I don't really give... I don't care if they don't get it. I do care that people were using it as an excuse to report me. And that, like, YouTube will even, like, give that the time of day. Because it's like, come on, dudes. I'm not going to violate your terms of service. You're definitely allowed to do stuff like that on YouTube, just to be clear. You're still allowed to do it and have ads. Most people are not that offended by it. Anyway, I would love a crazy intro supercut. Well, maybe I'll do that someday. I did not get an extra chocolate bar for myself. I don't need it. I'm plenty big. Draw Godzilla pooping in a litter box with my cat angrily watching. That's not a bad idea. More than one person thinks. You think I should have used a Baby Ruth? I used something close enough. I used a Snickers bar, so it had some texture to it. Anyway, to me, funny, but did not get the reaction from like basically new viewers that I hoped for. So I made, and to me it was a tough call, but I made the call to cut it. What else? What else? Flop Whopper's asking everybody what their favorite kaiju is, so everybody can feel free to reply to that. We need a list of these trolls. Yeah, I wish. Digging the King of Monsters. Thanks, Dirty Hippie. Milo was not amused. Not actually Milo. I know Milo has appeared on the live stream, and some of you know my orange and white cat Milo. I have a second orange and white cat. That's Little Bean. Little Bean was the star of my skit. So that's the little dude that was in there, not Milo. Little piece of trivia that no one cares about. In person, they look pretty different because Milo's a much deeper orange and Little Bean's pretty, he's more like a creamy sort of orange. Gojira. Favorite kaiju is Baby Otachi from Pacific Rim. That's cool. That's cool. I want to see a new version of Gamera. Yeah, that would be cool. Gamera is interesting. Man, last time I was in Japan, I was in this area called Akihabara, which is where like sort of all the nerdy toys and video games and anything you can collect basically is. It's just like a city almost devoted, like, well, it's part of a city, but it's huge, devoted to nothing but otaku type interests. And so I was there, and there was like it cost like over $1,000, but there was a Gamera like sort of statue toy that was like, it had to be 4 feet high, maybe 3 feet high, but it was massive, just massive. No, I did not ever attend art school, Edward. Oh, Kong, yeah. Milo has a stunt double. Yeah, Milo has a stunt double. I don't think Chrissy would want to hear that because Lil Bean is her cat. She doesn't want to think of him as a stunt double. No, we would never put a kitty at risk, especially not for a dumb joke. All right, Reptilicus. It was maybe more than 1,000, Selena. It was so much. It was like the most expensive toy I'd ever come across. I was like, what the hell? I was like, oh, it's Gamera, but wow, they sure want a lot for this guy. I was like, I don't know who can afford that, but I guess if anyone could, they'd be coming to Akihabara. That's where like I got the gachapons, and we've gotten all sorts of cool sort of stuff there. But you don't want to get so much that you can't take it all home. So and you don't want to spend a fortune. But it like everything there looks cool, like from model kits to action figures, like just anything you can think of, like you could find in Akihabara. Every video game, like retro or new. Just a really fun place. Ebera. Ebera's a cool design, but that was not one of my favorite movies, because if I'm remembering Ebera correctly, the Godzilla versus the Sea Monster, Godzilla's barely in that one. I think I'm remembering that right. That's one of the more boring ones. Didn't Dark Horse's comics Greatest World Stuff have a superhero that fought kaiju? Maybe they did, but I don't remember for sure. You guys are the best, and Chris, I love the show. Love, love, love. Oh, that's so nice. Hope to see you at a convention up here soon. Well, I'm not sure where up here is, Jen. I don't go to tons of conventions, but I do aim to go to New York Comic Con this year, so hopefully I will. I put in for a pro pass. In the past, they've always given me one, so. Because I do, people ask. Yeah, I do a little bit of pro work. I try to like do some every year so that I can sort of maintain my credentials and keep going to conventions when I feel like it or when I can afford to travel. Anyone else care about poor Baragon? Baragon's not a bad design. You know what? There's a lot of designs that I love in the Godzilla movies. The Smog Monster, Hedorah, not a big fan. Godzilla's son, not a fan. But there's some that I really like that, like, what am I thinking of? The plant monster, Biolante. Biolante is awesome. Destoroy is awesome. Most of the stuff they were doing in like the 90s, or I should say like the 80s into some of the 90s, were pretty dope. What else was cool? I like Kamanga, the spider. I like that one a lot. 279. I would love to see you interview pros. Well, Craig, that's definitely something I'd love to do too. I was mentioning earlier in this how I used to, podcast and interview professionals, and I do have a very specific idea of how I'd approach that if I could do it on my YouTube show. But that would require me to travel more, and possibly get, a little nicer camera, I think, even. Because, you got to be respectful and be able to capture good footage and stuff like that. And I'd make it more like a mini documentary about the creator's process, their specific process. I'd want to really see how somebody I'm interviewing approaches day-to-day life, not just talking to them at a convention. Like that, I'd specifically want to go to their work area a little bit, just a little bit, and see how they have their place set out and what they do. And I think that like a lot of people would be very interested in that. And I think a lot of pros would appreciate the opportunity to potentially share what they otherwise do very privately, But we'll see. We'll see. That's something I'd like to do, though. So I've got some big ideas, but I would need a lot bigger channel, I think, to make it feasible to do that kind of content. I don't know if there's a half measure that I could undertake. I've got a very specific idea of how I want to approach it. So we'll see. Maybe someday. My sound is a bit low. Let me see if I can do anything here. I can just move this a little closer, I guess. I don't know if that helps a lot. Is Galactus a kaiju? I wouldn't quite say so. He's a cosmic being, so I'm not sure that quite counts as a kaiju, even though he's large. I don't know. I don't think he quite fits the definition I think of when I think of kaiju, but maybe somebody has a broader definition and anything massive counts. I don't know. I'd have to really think about that one. What do you guys think? Could any sort of giant creature, no matter where they come from, would they count as kaiju? For instance, would Lovecraftian, tentacled Cthulhu type demons, would they count as kaiju? I'm not sure that they would. Would giant people count as kaiju? I don't think that they would, but I'm curious if somebody could argue a different case. Sound is good for you. Okay, thank you. Why does Galactus appear humanoid? I once read that it was how we perceive him, and that like other beings perceive Galactus differently. That he might not necessarily be like a bipedal human thing. That's just how we can perceive him. That's the only way we can perceive him. I like that idea. Kaiju are just giant earth creatures. Well, here's the thing though, they do sometimes include aliens. King Ghidorah is usually portrayed as an alien. The three-headed dragon guy, he usually comes from another planet to fight Godzilla. And there've been other, there are often aliens in Godzilla movies. So, is it Earthbound? 420, blaze it. Gustavo, that's a really kind of you. That's funny too. That's funny. Thank you. How awesome was Endgame? Endgame was pretty awesome. I don't remember the issue, but I remember him appearing as a scroll to a scroll. Oh, okay. Didn't know that about King Ghidorah. Yeah, King Ghidorah is normally portrayed as a creature from another planet. I'm trying to think. Biollante may have had something like spores from space turn into what he was. It's hard to remember. But I definitely remember Space Godzilla formed in space, but also based on Godzilla's DNA. It's confusing. Hey, Mike L. Do you think the mecha versions of these kaiju from the American Godzilla movies would make sense because of nuclear versus mecha technology? It makes enough sense to me. Yeah, I definitely want to see... I would definitely want to see a mecha in like the American movies. I think that like whether it's Mecha Godzilla or if they want to like really be bold and like somehow find a way to include Pacific Rim, dude, I'm in. I'm totally in. And I don't think the Pacific Rim creatures would like get much higher than like, about here maybe on Godzilla. But I still think that they could give him a big challenge. I think that would be cool. I haven't seen any of Disney Galaxy's Edge vlogs, but I really would love to see that. I'm a big Star Wars nerd. I would love to go to Galaxy's Edge. Realistically, it'll probably be a few years till I do something like that. What else? People have different ideas about Galactus. Rita Repulsa is an alien, right? Yeah. From Power Rangers, I'm pretty sure that every version of Rita Repulsa is an alien. I'm not the biggest Power Rangers guy, though. It was definitely like after I was watching sort of like kids shows. I was like definitely in like college when it came out, so I'm not an expert on Power Rangers, but I still know a little, at least about the earlier versions. And to my knowledge, Rita is an alien. I like the comic where J. Jonah Jameson yells at Godzilla to stop interrupting his work. Yeah, and that's in my review of the Godzilla comics from Marvel. He just gets out of his window and he's like, "Hey, knock it off." J. Jonah Jameson, people don't push him far enough into losing his temper at things well beyond his control. Please watch Pacific Rim if you've never seen a kaiju movie before. Well, no matter what, is Giganta a kaiju? Maybe. Are some Pokemon kaiju? Yeah, I suppose so. What's that sea creature? Is that Gyarados? That's a pretty big one, right? I want pictures. Pictures of Spider-Man. What was that? There was a Simpsons where I'm pretty sure it was J.K. Simmons. Like, he wasn't explicitly playing J. Jonah Jameson, I don't think. But he definitely voiced him the same, and they drew him the same. So, for all intents and purposes, no matter what, he was J. Jonah Jameson. And he goes, I want pictures of Spider-Man. And the guy goes, but we're a poetry magazine. He goes, then I want poems of Spider-Man. And I want the stanzas to go A, B, B, C, A, B. You know, or whatever it was. That joke still cracks me up. For a later era Simpsons, that's one of their better jokes. I want poems of Spider-Man. Godzilla versus Cloverfield Monster. Yeah, I'd watch that. I think that Godzilla would tear the Cloverfield Monster to pieces. Those spindly legs and stuff, forget about it. Cloverfield Monster, to my knowledge, didn't have anything like long-range attacks like energy blasts or acid spit or webbing or anything. So Cloverfield Monster is definitely dangerous to humans. Godzilla would just step on that thing. I would like to see that. Could Superman beat Godzilla? What can't Superman beat, right? At the same time, in the Marvel Comics, Godzilla, you know, they had the license to Godzilla for a year. Godzilla existed within the Marvel Universe. They can't refer to him anymore because they don't still have the license. But he was, for a while, in the comics. And he went up against, the closest he went up against is, he briefly sort of goes up against the Avengers and the Fantastic Four, and none of them can stop him. They also go up against the Champions, which includes Hercules. And Hercules is able to basically upend Godzilla at one point. Godzilla stops him, but he uses his strength to sort of tip him over. That's about the closest they come to sort of slowing Godzilla down. You know, he takes, I'm pretty sure, like Mjolnir to the face, and it hurts him, but it just stuns him. It doesn't knock him out cold. What if Godzilla was bit by a radioactive spider? Goodbye, world. Hercules knocked Godzilla down. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, he knocked him down. But he didn't beat him. He didn't knock him out. Godzilla gets knocked down plenty. But then he gets back up, Master Wayne. Master Wayne, why do we get knocked down? So that we can stand back up again. Quite right. Quite right. Oh, Master Bruce. Some men just want to watch the world nuclear fire burn. When do we get the Godzuki movie we deserve? We do deserve it. I hope we never get it. I'm surprised they haven't done a spider kaiju in the Spider-Man extended universe. They have. They totally have. There was a Spider-Man live action show in Japan, and he could summon a humongous robot, and he fought gigantic monsters. It came right before the stuff that's Power Rangers came out, and it very much sort of inspired Power Rangers. There was only one season, but it was a guy in a spandex suit fighting stuff, and then he got in his gigantic Spider-Man mech. What was it called? It was called something like Leo Kaiser or something along those lines. I can't remember exactly. But that's the Spider-Man extended universe. In whatever that Spider-Verse comic book was, the first one, that Spider-Man exists in the comics. So, yeah, there's a Spider-Man. Japanese Spider-Man has fought kaiju, so technically it does exist. Leopardon, that's his robot. Leopardon. Yeah, Godzilla fought a robot samurai called Red Ronin. He's not exactly a samurai per se, because does he have a sword? he's got like a samurai headdress, and he's called Red Ronin. Yeah, yeah. I think that the Marvel comics should totally have a few kaiju from time to time, and some of them have. They have, like, in fact, a really lame villain from the Godzilla Marvel comic has stayed around in, like, Avengers West Coast and stuff like that. He's called Dr. Demonicus, and he actually mutated Godzilla into, like, this other sort of lizard kaiju. He was against Godzilla and he mutated him, and that creature does exist in the Marvel universe, and there are supposedly like giant monsters on an island somewhere. So technically, like, anytime Marvel felt like it, they could break those out. And personally, I would really love to see like Hulk go up against a giant kaiju monster. It doesn't have to be Godzilla, it could be anybody, and I think that would be a lot of fun. Wouldn't really fit with the current comic, but someday. Or a one-shot. Fin Fang Foom. That's a great one. Fin Fang Foom is a giant dragon from outer space. And he is basically Godzilla size. And yeah, like Fin Fang Foom is probably the most famous kaiju in the Marvel universe. You're right, like he totally counts. Fin Fang Foom is great. If you've never read Next Wave, all I can say is read that comic. That is dope. Oh, it's so good. Yeah, I love Godzilla. I gotta say, folks, I just have loved him for a long time, and I know I've done a couple live streams where I've drawn either Godzilla or Ghidorah or probably other monsters. I just I can't help it. I really, really like it. It's something I really enjoy. I'm going to look up in a second. I've also got those pre-written questions that some friends sent in that I haven't really looked at yet, so I could always tell a story based on one of those. I asked them to send me non-comics related questions that could like lead into stories. Let's see. Frost giants. Would frost giants count as kaiju? Maybe. Depends exactly how big they're portrayed. You know, I would say that like Ymir, the frost giant, and Surtur would potentially count as kaiju. Potentially. Next Wave, yeah. I should make a Next Wave episode sometime. That would be cool. Marvel has put out 2 Monster Bus Omnibus. The first has Groot on the cover. You know, I'm pretty sure that Groot was at least co-created by Larry Lieber, Stan Lee's brother. I could be wrong on that, but I think that there's a possibility I'm remembering that right. See you, Terry OA. Thank you so much for stopping in. Got the Godzilla theme in my head big time. All right, let's see. Don't forget to Hulk smash the like button. Thank you. Can kaiju be intelligent? That's a good question. Would that be the distinction, that they're animalistic as compared to being capable of clear communication? Maybe that's a distinction for kaiju, that they can't necessarily just speak or communicate in an explicit language. Kaiju could definitely be smarter than your average animal. I mean, their brains are probably humongous. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're capable of I don't know. That's an interesting distinction. Godzilla is definitely usually depicted as being more than capable of coming up with pretty cunning plans. But he's still at his core kind of more of an animal. I don't know. I haven't seen the Swamp Thing premiere. I would love to. I don't have what do you call it? The streaming service from DC. Is it called DC Universe? I want to say that it's called DC Universe. I'd love to. Can really only afford one streaming service at a time personally. So for me, that's currently Netflix. Not sure how much longer I'll keep it. I think I'll probably switch to Disney Plus because I want to see the Marvel and Star Wars stuff when that comes out. But oh, hold on, super chat. I drew Spider-Man baking while you drew Zilla. I love it. You should show us. I don't know, if you have a link or something, I can approve it. Just if you've put it anywhere, I can share that. Or you can share it and I can just approve it, because otherwise normally links aren't, they're auto-censored just in case. But I'm curious to see Spider-Man baking. Thoughts on Deadly Class adaptation? I also don't have cable, in case it's clear. That's just not really in my budget. But I did see the pilot on YouTube. They released the pilot, and I really liked it. I thought it was very... what would you call it? Accurate to the comic, very loyal. I thought it was looking very promising. I hope it stayed that way. Would love to catch it as soon as it's released somewhere I can see it. Pretty big fan of Rick Remender in general. I just like his take on things, so I'm sort of predisposed to like it. If you like somebody, you tend to sort of keep liking it. You and your cats remind me of Nick Fury and Goose. Yeah. I still have both eyes, though. Anyway. Any other Doom Patrol comic tropes? Can be a future video. Maybe. Never say never. Never say never. Maybe you've talked about this in a review before and I forgot, but have you read Paper Girls? I do read Paper Girls. I love Brian K. Vaughan. I think it's pretty cool. I'm not completely up to date, so I'm behind at least one full trade paperback, maybe a little bit more. But I've read the first 2 trade paperbacks and I liked it a lot, so definitely want to keep reading it. Yeah, big fan of Brian K. Vaughan. He writes good stuff. I'm probably not going to have time to color this tonight after all, guys. It's starting to get pretty late, and obviously I've still got quite a bit more to do with the drawing itself. So what I'm leaning towards doing is calling it right now or in a sec, and picking this up at some point, doing some more work on this so that it stays good. Maybe I'll give it a really full background so that I can keep drawing and color it in and stuff. Can we please see how you draw an original character that we know nothing about? Yes. Not right now, though. I just, yeah, I gotta get going, I think. All of a sudden realize that I'm really hot and kind of need to use the bathroom, so... How long have I been going? Oh, I've been going almost 2 hours, an hour and 45 minutes. So I apologize that it sort of seems abrupt, but I just sort of realized all of a sudden that I need a break. What else? Appreciate you guys all joining me. Thank you so much for the super chats tonight. Super generous. I am going to sign off now, but I will try to, yeah, man, send it on Twitter. So I'll definitely retweet that, at @ctropes, or just look up Comic Tropes on Twitter, and I will retweet it. So I'm saying, like, tag me, hit on the art so that I can see it. Want me to bring you a toilet? No. I'm okay. It's not that kind of an emergency, Chrissy, but thank you very much. You guys have been great. Thank you so much for so many great questions. I didn't even have to pull from the pre-prepared ones. I had a really fun time. I'm not going to use the bathroom in Milo's box. I won't. I promise. I'm going to use a human being toilet. All right. So, hey, Seahots. I am about to take off, but you guys have been great. I will try to get back to this. Let me think of my work schedule. What's today? Monday? I might be able to get on this Friday. Okay, so I will try to do that soon. Hopefully it's Friday. Anyway, you guys are the best. And until I see you next time, keep reading comics. Take care.